was never really good playing role of the puppet. Too busy being me to be concerned with perception of the public. Everyone is buzzing, but everybody ain't thinking about a budget. I want ownership in something. Niggas get they
Man, it's Jim CB, and again we are back for another video for the channel. Breaking news. Tapping in with y'all one time, cause my dang Dash out here sounding like the biggest hater in America, man. How do you hate a guy you built, you know, something legendary and timeless with, right? And I mean, I get it. We got business fallouts and, you know, contractual obligations, you know, things that just tend to be, you know, it just throws me off that, you know, just because we couldn't make it in business don't mean that everything that we've done together I gotta burn down, right? So when you talk about Reasonable Doubt, right, talk about this classic album, talk about this classic record label that they've created together, right? Him, Jay and Biggs, right? And you look at it and all of the fighting and the trailblazing that Dame helped do, right? Like, cause it wasn't just Jay, right? You know, they partnered up, started this label. They ran it up together, right? You know, Dame in the beginning was the mouthpiece. Jay was laid back, quiet, you know, playing his role. I'm gonna just be the, you know, I'm the artist right now. I'm trying to, we trying to get the label off the ground, right? Like, you know, this album gotta be great. My album's gotta be great. Before we can establish the label and sign up artists, I have to be established. So right now it's my background role. I'm just focused on the artist, right? Being an artist, right? Dame's job was to get in there and be the executive, right? Be the, you know, the fighter, the fight for the artist, fight for the deals, you know, fight for what he believed that Jay and, you know, others were worth, right? And, you know, Biggs was more of the quiet, reserved, day-to-day, let me deal with the artists, partying and promoting, you know, things like that. And also, you know, more the money man, right? Put up whatever we need, do whatever we need, do the grunt, do the dirty work, right? And, you know, and together, right? So in the beginning, Jay didn't have to worry. Dame and Biggs did the bulk of, you know, the street team stuff, right? That all of the dirty work, you know, because being an artist is the cute role, all right? Now, when you say all that, right, it doesn't mean that Jay wasn't an executive. It doesn't mean that Biggs can't be a great executive. None of them can run companies. It just meant for what we doing right now and how we moving, this seems to be the way to move, right? Everybody got a role, you know, as, you know, their CEO roles. Everybody got a role, what they do other than just being the CEO. So, to wait 20-something years later when y'all fell out, to crash out in every interview, he was whack, this was whack, that was whack. Dame was wearing button-ups too when Jay was wearing button-ups, right? And things like that, right? Y'all was together, right? So if you say nobody like Reasonable Doubt like that, it's really whack, his stage play, you was up there dancing with Jay, right? It was songs where Jay didn't need you to hype the crowd. He didn't need nobody to hype the crowd because it was conversational piece, right? When I'm telling my story, this is an emotional song. I'm on this stage, right? And I'm talking to you, you know what I mean? I'm giving you the game, right? I'm giving you the blueprint. You don't need a hype man for that. But with a record like Give It To Me, in the anthems, yeah, you're gonna have your boys up there. That's how that's supposed to go. So I don't understand what you mean it's a whack stage show. Now, if you say Jay got a whack stage show and you drawing a parallel between Jay and X, well, nobody had a show like DMX. And Jay-Z explained that. Right, so many other artists is like, yo, he would make you laugh, cry, pray, jump up out your seat, scream. By the time you left that show, you felt like you had every emotion in the book, and you walked out like, goddamn, right? Pac had a presence like that, right? Some people just draw you in. Everybody can't be that. So if you're comparing Jay's show to X's show, of course, I mean, oh yeah, it is kind of, then Max left Earth on that shit, right? So again, Dame, I just think that the bitterness, I feel like if he worked as hard as he does hating on the older Rockefeller artists, hating on Jay, or hating on the people who he can't get in the rooms with, or he's no longer in business with, or who he feels like is blackballing him, I felt like
these things
with that energy, you fall out with people. You disrespect anybody that you're not in business with, right? Whether you had a relationship prior or not, right? So now you just look like the biggest hater in the world, right? And with you looking like the biggest hater in the world, for me, I say it wasn't this much hate when y'all was doing y'all thing together, right? And for you to fight for reasonable doubt in the beginning when y'all first broke up, it was a reason for that, right? And granted, Jay-Z's first album was overshadowed by a lot. It was a lot going on at that time, right? Wu-Tang was popping, Tupac was out popping. It was independent, so they were signed to Priority and all these different things, right? It was an independent album, so to sell 500,000 copies on an independent album was actually success back then, right? Most people can't even crack 500,000 sales now in 2026. So when you look at that and you go, oh, it was the dud. It was a dud in the beginning. What it grew into, though, was something different. And the subject matter was different. It was deeper. The casual fan and the casual listener who wasn't living that life could not understand what was going on. Everybody didn't sell drugs in the 90s and 80s. It was an exclusive club, right? Not now. The game is oversaturated. So we can't keep saying, oh, this, that, and the third, and Reasonable Doubt was whack, and this album was whack because y'all wasn't around, right? Now, when you look at Reasonable Doubt, it came out in 1996. I was 9, 10 years old at the time, right? So my brother listened to Reasonable Doubt every day. My older brother listened to it every single day, right? So for me, I heard Jay-Z more often than most. Now, as I would get older, I would grow to understand what this album was and what it meant and who he was talking to. And as I grew, the situations in life that I've seen or been through, the things that he talked about started to resonate with me and a lot of others, right? So as an 80s baby, and you listening to those things, you start to understand that when you're living life and you're like, man, this is amazing work, right? So that's what that is. And I think that now that Dame is on the opposite side of Hove, or Jay, or whatever you refer to him as, it's become apparent that he doesn't want to see him win. It makes his skin crawl because he hasn't had the same success. If Dame had equal or the same success, I believe that they would still probably work together in some capacity. Not in the same company, but they would probably cross promote and cross do things. It would be Rockefeller reunion tours and things of that nature, or Dame would be a part of those bigger situations. I feel like Dame's ego was what went out of control and what has him here. His ego was telling him, I'm a disrespect dude, right? Now, most time, me when Jay got his songwriting awards and stuff like that, he highlighted Dame. He shouted out Dame. He shouted out Biggs, right? Even in God Did, he shouted out Biggs, right? Because Biggs is now back up, and then I remember Dame being disrespectful or speaking disrespectful of Biggs because Biggs was, hanging back out with Hov. But it's like, yo, come on, man. Like, they had a conversation buried that. What's going on with Dame? Same thing with D-Haven. Everything is Jay this and Jay that. Even Klein came out, bigged up Jay, and like, hey, that was my fault. It was on me. And after that, you ain't hearing nothing negative about him. He just
really
had to probably get whatever his
Dame
bit
is the
was
biggest
out.
hater, man. And to be honest with you, I wish things would have worked out different between these guys, right? And clearly, at some point in their relationship, Dame probably thought he was smarter than Jay-Z, right? It's probably a lot of people who thought they were smarter than Jay-Z. But a lot of times when people describe Jay-Z in the background, the quiet guy, not say too much, just sit back and observe, those type of people are often way more intelligent than you'll ever give them credit for, right? Sometimes they may not have the confidence to speak. Sometimes they may feel like it's not their place to speak, right? And with somebody like Dame, sometimes your ego can overshadow what you know is right in front of you. And at the end of the day, they're both men, and a lot of men do operate in ego. And at some point, when you're dealing with ego, if one kills their ego before the other man kills his ego, he's able to see the clearer picture. So maybe that's what happened, but who knows? But with him saying he made Jay-Z, I'm thinking about all these comments that Dame has had over these years about Jay-Z, regarding Jay-Z before and after the breakup. And it just seemed like you're mad at this man. You're upset. And this is what's paying the bills right now if the whole he's broke narrative is true, right? Because I believe that his broke is not you work a 9 to 5 broke, right? Rich men get into tax trouble all the time. So I won't cast that shadow on him. I just will say that he's a hater, and he's been being a hater for a better part of 20 years. And I just wish that Dame corrected some of his issues and started up a great campaign business or whatever he's into, and it's ultra super successful. That way he doesn't have to focus on what he lost or what he lost in that partnership, right? It's just that simple. It's not I'm a Jay-Z fan and I hate Dame. No, it's a clear picture of, these gentlemen did something great together, and now it's fell apart for the better part of 20 years. It's been over, right? Some people don't get over that as easy as others. That's all I'm saying. And it's easy to get over something when you're successful. Jay-Z has moved on, built bigger and different businesses. I remember Big started a clothing company when he came from prison, 4th of November. I also remember Biggs taking a role somewhere in or around Rock Nation, as well as Embry. People got to remember, Embry and Biggs had a great relationship as well before Embry went to prison. Like, that's a fact that Biggs stated. That's a fact that Embry stated. That's a fact that Jay stated. My thing was, when they talk about them all being former street hustlers in some form of fashion, Biggs had some bread, Dame had some bread, Jay had some bread, Emery had some bread, DeHaven had some bread, Klein had some bread. All of these guys had some type of money before they met jail, before they jumped into the rap industry. Because after a while, before them indictments come, you got to move around. You got to legitimize yourself. And, some people weren't as quick or didn't move as quick and savvy at the same time. I know they said that DeHaven got out of it first. He moved on from the game first. But he got tied back up in an old indictment. They did some shaky stuff, right? So, of course, when you look at that, everybody says, okay, Jay's up now, right? He's supposed to come back and grab all of us, right? But DeHaven also said that Dame did some sucker stuff too, to him. So at the end of the day, that's the drug dealing world. You get betrayed sometimes. Everybody, and in this day and age, everybody's gonna get told on, right? There's multiple snitches in the game, and there's multiple backstabbers in the game. Betrayal is the name of the game. There's no honor among thieves and criminals. And when you do have those type of morals, eventually something's gonna tell you to move on from that world, or you go with the move, right? So if you're in it and you're a product of it, and you want to get out of it, it's only a couple ways out, right? And there aren't always good ways out. Most of those ways are not good. Death, jail, or worse. A very few make it out. A very few don't. They realize early enough to be like, I don't want to do this. I don't want this to be my life. And they move on from it, right? But everybody don't get to move on clean. Same thing with business. Everybody doesn't leave the company clean. What did Eddie Griffin say? Every black man in the industry of entertainment doesn't leave clean. They always have something or some type of asterisk to their name. Rock Nation is a double. Michael Jackson was allegedly, which I don't believe, a PDF, right? Michael Jordan gambling and everything. LeBron, a big old crybaby, right? Dr. Dre beat women, right? Let's be honest. Suge Knight hanging with the Bloods. Now he in jail for whatever he was doing, right? For the hit and run of his own friend, right? When you look at that and you go, oh, Cosby, drugging women, right? Not the Diddy, prostitution and all that. Not to say that they are not, that everybody on that list is not guilty or not guilty. That's not to say that. That is just to say that, dude, they all have some type of but on their name. And I think that sometimes, whether true or not, it's still a stain. Right? Now I'm not a judge, jury, executioner, or none of that shit, right? I don't believe in judging things I don't know. Whether it's proven in court, because people lie, whether it's proven any other way, physical evidence or not, whether it's alleged, whether you did jail time for your crimes, whatever the case may be, I do not believe in just saying it, right? Because I'm not in that world to know. But I do know that somebody has something next to their name that makes you look at them and side eye, right? So even with that, Jay-Z did all his homeboys dirty. Rock Nation is evil. That's all I'm saying. And when you see that narrative going around the internet, Instagram, Facebook, and all these reels, you see these things, and it gives validity to the things that Dame may be saying or may not be saying to other folks. But everybody knows that it's part of the algorithm. If I say this, it's going to get me clicks and views, which that's true. It does get you clicks and views, but is it your honest portrayal? Is that actually what happened? Because I believe in business, especially in a three-way partnership where everybody's trying to win, or when some people feel like he's just latching onto my coattail. At some point, y'all got to break off and do your own thing, right? Everything can't be we. And that's just that part. But I believe that you can still be a we. We can still be connected. We can still be friends. I have my company. You have yours. They sold most of Rockefeller to Def Jam anyway, so the company was partially dissolved. Sell the remaining portion. Let's cut our ties. Move on, do other things. Rockefeller was dissolved, sold off, and then partnership with Def Jam was severed, and then Rock Nation was born. Right? Dame Dash had Dame Dash Music Group and Dame Dash Music Group and two other businesses attached to that, which didn't go up, right? Biggs was in jail during that time. So we can't say that he didn't get something, or he didn't have anything when that partnership dissolved. So one business grew, the other business stalled for some reason. We don't know. We're not going to allege. But ever since then, Dame has been trying to kick Jay-Z's back in. And I'm not saying that that's right or wrong. What I'm saying is, if I was Dame and that was once my man, we was like thick as thieves, we built something together, no matter how it turned out, I can't see myself discredited and shitting on that man every chance that I get. Whether we can go into business again or we cannot. Whether we mesh well as a partnership or not, I just can't see myself doing it. If I don't have anything nice to say, I will say, hey, listen, can we not talk about it? Let's talk about what I'm building. Or don't do interviews unless you have something you're building. That's it. That's all, man. And I wish that brother luck, because it sounds like he needs some healing, man. It just sounds really bad. Especially with the Reasonable Doubt was trash, because that's what y'all was bumping. You was all in the videos, you know. He was hanging with Big, you was hanging with Puff. Like, let's not do that. Let's not revive